So thanks for spending time with us. So we are recording. Thanks for doing that, Kathleen. So we're recording. So we'll have this, and we'll have also planning to have the slides be something that we can share with you all. So yeah, so I hope you take a few notes, but no need to do in depth because we'll be sharing this. Right now, if you would go ahead and you can use that QR code and let us know that you are here. Hopefully that will give us a sign that you are present and attending. So we appreciate your doing that. And then after that, I know a few more people are hopping in. We're gonna dive right in. We have plenty of good things to cover. So yeah. All right. Thank you all for going ahead and signing up. While we're doing that, if you would, I'm really grateful for one of our graduate interns who helped think of icebreaker activities. So if you would go ahead and use the chat and let us know. We're going to be talking a lot today about career exploration and different things. So I'm curious, what was your first dream job? If you would drop that in the chat, what was it that, some idea of what you wanted to do very early on and you thought it was really cool? Oh, and I just got to note, Andrea, sorry that you weren't able to use the QR code. If any of you are having trouble with the QR code, we'll kind of round back and try to capture anybody who misses that. So yeah, it's all good. What about dream jobs in the chat box? Anybody have a dream job that they remember? Sustainable farmer, nice. That's awesome. Travel journalist, pediatrician, ooh, pastry chef, pediatrician, soccer player, professional puzzle put together. Yeah, that's awesome. That's good. National Geographic photographer, yes. Olympic athlete, Michelin chef, fashion designer, a singer, cricketer, yep. Ben and Jerry's ice cream maker. I think there'd be a lot of good testing of ice cream in that. It's a good idea. Author and a professional singer. Good. News reporter, rock star, cartoonist. I mean, it seems like we already got a band with the singers and performers. Car designer, artist, singer. Man, I mean, a couple of you are, if you're coming to Nashville, could be a place to be found. Marine biologist, fashion magazine editor. Oh man, that's great. I'm gonna say I hope a lot of you find a way to fit that in with your business data science careers that you all pursue, because you'll have some pretty great ideas. Well, keep those ideas in mind, because we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about different dream jobs and what people can do later on. So here's a quick look at where we're headed. We're going to do some introductions, both talk a little about who we are. We also have a few more questions we want to ask of you all to get to know you. A lot of today, we're going to spend time on resources and tools for career exploration. We've got an activity we're going to do. We also have a guest that's going to be stopping by, a current student who's going to share some from their experience. And we're going to wrap up with give a quick quiz to see what you all learned from this. And then we're going to wrap up with some next steps. Okay, so by way of introductions, sorry, still working on getting my two screens down. So by way of introductions, this slide captures a lot of the folks on the CMC coaching team. SM stands for Specialized Masters. So we've got a couple of different programs here. We'll be talking more about that in a moment. I'm Brooke on the bottom left side. So I work a little bit with all the Specialized Masters programs, but I spend the most time with the data science program. There are a couple other people that are joining us here. One that is not joining us is in the upper left-hand corner. You'll see Zeke. Zeke is going to be starting on June 9th next week. He is been working at OWEN for a number of years and is currently moving to the MMark CMC coach role. So we're excited to have him. But we also have Kathleen, who's been working with MMarks for quite a while, is moving on to some other things. So Kathleen, do you mind saying hi?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces and names as well. So like Brooke said, I'm going to be transitioning to working with MBA students this summer, but I have been working with the MMarks in the past. So I'm glad to be with you all today.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathleen. And we also have Ginny, who coached our MSF students last year and is doing the same this coming year. So Ginny.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yes, see many familiar names and faces. Welcome, and hope this series will help you go through some of the career thought during your summer, and for the MSFs, it's parallel to the career curriculum. So hopefully this is helpful and productive time for you all.
Awesome. Great. We have a really wonderful team. I hope you get a chance to of course get to know the person that's working with your program, but hopefully you get a chance to interact with all of us. You'll also see on here we have some graduate interns. You'll see Srinidhi and you'll see Byung-ho. Srinidhi has been spending most of her time with the data science program, Byung-ho primarily with the MSF program, but they definitely float around. So hopefully you'll get to know them as well. They're both out today, but you will see them in the future. So that's coming. Maybe before we go too much further, I am curious. So hopefully you can all see that question I just launched, but I'm curious, what program are you all in? We have 3 different programs that are represented here. I hope you're, by the way, noticing the acronyms. We call it the Master of Marketing program. We shorten that to MMark a lot. The Master of Science in Data Science. We shorten that to MSDS. The Master of Science in Finance, we call MSF a lot. So yeah. Oh, great. Looks like we've got a number of folks from the MMark program, a couple from Masters of Finance as well, and some from the Data Science program too. Perfect. So that's a quick look at you all today. So thanks for being here. I know the summer is busy. I know there are other things going on. I'm just going to say, like, there is a ton that happens when you get to Vanderbilt. And so I think the fact that you are starting to plan now can help you so much. I just know so many students who get to Vanderbilt and things are really busy. It's overwhelming. So I'm so glad that you're spending some time over the summer starting to think about these things. So let's dig in a little bit further. Our goal in the CMC is to help you advance your career. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. It's a lot of fun to get to help super motivated, bright students thinking about these kinds of things. And so that's what we're here for. This is a quick overview of what we do in the CMC. So we help in a lot of different ways. We do workshops. Some are virtual. We'll, of course, have in-person workshops once you are on campus. We do one-on-one coaching, which, depending upon the program, there's even some opportunities. There are opportunities for everybody to engage in that over the summer. Just the process looks a little bit different from one program to the next. We also do internship and job search groups. It's another great way to be engaging with our office in like a smaller group setting. But there are other things that our office, the CMC, does as well. We have a side that does employer engagement, employer relations, and they work a lot with employers. So this slide right here, this team, basically, those that are here, we're really focusing on working with students. Like that's what we do day in and day out, and it's a lot of fun. And then we have another team that works with employers. So they're building relationships with employers, connecting with them. And, as you see more, you'll probably see already on Teams or Slack, and you say, hey, here's an employer who's looking to fill an internship or a role. A lot of that comes from folks on this team. Underlining all those things are a couple of recruiting platforms we'll be talking more about. 1220 is the one that we run here at Owen. And then there's another one for all of Vanderbilt called Handshake. Some people are familiar with from their undergrad institutions. So that's a bit more about us. So a little bit about what we're doing this summer. I mentioned we have these different activities, sessions that we're doing this summer. This is a little bit about how we think about the internship and job search process. Is we kind of think of breaking it out into some different steps, starting with career exploration, then looking at skill gaps. What is it that employers really need and what are employers really looking for? We think a little bit about you telling your story and putting together a plan, which is based on the career paths you're pursuing and based on what employers need for those career paths. And we have a lot of other kind of steps that we have. So basically, this summer we have 8 different sessions, one every week, minus the 4th of July week, for the next couple, both the rest of June and into July. So that's where we're headed. And that's our outline for the upcoming sessions. So yeah, more to follow on that. I will say this seems very clean and organized. when I think about how life looks and when I think about my own career decisions, it may often look a lot like this because life happens, because the economy, because, you know, crazy things will happen here and there, and it can often be a bit messier. I will say something we spend a lot of time thinking about is things we can control and things we can't control. A lot of the things on the outside that are mentioned there are some things that we may not be able to have as much influence over. So that's where we try to focus on this, because these are the things that we can do. And we don't view this as just a process. We view this as skills. You're coming to Vanderbilt, you're going to be obtaining a lot of concrete skills from your classes. If you want to, and those of you who are here are starting this, you have the option also to really be gaining job search skills that'll be helping you throughout your lifetime, not just finding an internship or finding a job, not just the next role, but it'll be something that you'll use throughout your life. So we're glad that you're getting into that. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about career exploration, and before I do that, I've got a few other questions I would like to ask you all. So here's a question for you all: is how confident are you about your post-program career path? How certain do you feel like you know where you're going? And please be honest with this. For this, you can pick just one option. But yeah, how confident are you feeling in what you're going to be doing after your program? All right, gonna give it about 5 more seconds. Starting to see a couple of common themes. All right, and I'll share that now. So here is what you are hopefully seeing from that is good news is everybody has thought at least some about that. We've got a good percentage of people who are trying to find out more information to help with this, and this is the right place to be on that. So I'm so glad that you're here, because that's the focus of what we're doing today, is more information around that. A couple of you have mentioned that you've narrowed down a few things. You kind of narrowed down a few options. Some people are pretty confident about what they'd like to do. I would not be shocked if a lot of those people are MSFs pursuing investment banking, just a hunch, having some experience with this. And we've got one person who has the tattoo with the next job title and employer. That is awesome. If you are, as long as it's an appropriate place, if you want to turn on your camera and show us that, just that would be great. No, you don't need to. Okay. Coming up next, another question that relates to career options, and that is this question: how much do you feel you know about the career options for your program? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, it can be tough to find some of the information out there. Certainly we think it's an important thing to find, but curious how much you feel like you know about what the options are for your program. Nice, good to see we've got some variety for this. All right, 3 more seconds on this. Any last folks want to respond? Okay, and here are the results. So one person knows just the name of the program. That's a place to start. Some of you have a few ideas. Some of you have looked through some of the existing outcomes information. It can be tricky to find, but there is some out there. A couple of you say you've got at least 3 different types of roles that you're thinking about and have narrowed things down to. And then the final one had conversations with several people who have experience in those roles. So great. Our hope is that we give you a lot of information today to move you lower down on that list, so you can kind of take in more information and have more to make decisions with. All right. I'm curious, when you all see this, can you see the full descriptions of the questions? I'm getting like an abbreviated version. Can you see the full, like especially the final 3 questions? Or you just, is it part of it get cut out?
I am not exactly sure what you mean by that.
No.
I get a question that says, how much do you know about the career options for your program?
And what is can you see what the final answer is on yours?
I see
Go ahead, Natalie.
just the program name all the way through. I've had conversations with several people.
Okay. Does it say several people who have, and then it cuts out? Or are you able to kind of expand the box and read the whole, have experience in roles of interest?
When I answered the question, I saw the full thing, but now that I'm seeing the poll results, it just says ...
Gotcha. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Plenty to learn on the poll use. Natalie, thank you for hopping in on that. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay. So where we are heading next is let's talk a little bit about some of the data and resources that you have. So that's what we're going. So first, we're going to talk about some of the data that's out there. I hope if you are in the MMark program or the MSF program, I hope you're aware that there's an employment report. That is the MMark one. This is the MSF one. So they've been put out every year. We're hoping soon to start doing that for data science as well. If you check out those, there's a lot of great information. Kathleen worked hard on compiling this for the MMark program. So it's awesome. You can see what job function that folks are heading into, what are they doing day in, day out, and then what industry is the company that they're doing that in. So that was interesting. Consulting was pretty high for both of those in the MMark program, but definitely, as you can see, other things as well. Brand product management, business and analytics, client services, digital marketing. You can see a number of those places, and then you can see the industries that they're doing those things in. So that information is out there. Just a reminder that is available. Then you can also see, I'm going to show you how to get access to more information like this. This is the nice part about the employment reports is they're pretty detailed. They're shared publicly, but you can get access to far more information that is not public. It's just open to you all. And so this actually pulls from a number of different years. And I was curious for the MSF program, what are the different paths that people go into? And I thought it was interesting, although investment banking is certainly one a lot of MSFs are interested in, that year over year for the past several years, it's just under half that have headed to investment banking. And there are folks who head to a lot of other areas, as you can see here, including consulting, corporate finance, a lot of other areas in financial services, a lot of risk management type roles, investment management, research, valuation. You can see the wide variety that's there. So I think just a good reminder, some people come into the program and say like, hey, I'm pretty certain I know what I want to do. But I think it's this, especially now, can be a great time to explore what are some of these other options and possibilities. So we're talking about job functions here. And then in this situation for data science, so we only have 2 years of data on data science. This looks at the industries that folks are having internships in. The orange is in the class of 2023, and then class of 2022 is blue. So you can see a little bit of changes over time where folks have had their internships. So like I said, there is a lot of information. This is the tip of the iceberg. So if I were you, I would encourage you to explore some of these resources, and I'm going to drop in the chat. This comes through the resource library in 1220, and I'm seeing in the chat people were helping me out with what I was saying earlier. Thank you for that, gosh. Let me try that again. I'm sorry, that's not very helpful. Unless, but maybe can you, if that is still hyperlinked in what I'm sharing, that is awesome. If not, if someone doesn't mind sharing the actual hyperlink so that you can click through to that at some point, that would be awesome. So when you click on this, what you'll get access to is data that goes back for a number of years for each of these different programs. So please check that out. Oh, gosh, Natalie, thank you again. The first link seems to be still hyperlinked, even though it looks more like an image than text. I'm glad. So I will say right now, the resource library, you have access to just a part of the resource library. This is a part that you can't navigate to unless you have that link. So it's pretty helpful. And yeah, so we're going to talk through a couple of different resources. And the first one is 1220. I mentioned before the employment reports, right? So for the employment reports that we do, you can get access to the line-by-line data, minus a couple of key things that are removed, like salary information. But you can get access to that through 1220. So there is a ton of data there. Data science folks especially, I hope you're appreciating and getting into that. There's a lot there to take a look at. You can sort through that data in a ton of ways. You can look at the timing of when people receive offers, assuming they've provided it. You can look at work authorization, if it's permanent work authorization or non-permanent. So those of you who aren't US citizens, if you are like, hey, I want to know which companies have been open to people who may need visa sponsorship, you can take a look at that. So there's a ton of different resources out there. So please put that to good use. I'll stop real quick. Any questions that folks are running into before I run through a couple of these other resources? Any questions that are coming up?
Yes, so I'm actually being unable to look at the MSF accepted FT jobs. It keeps telling me an error occurred, and I'm not really sure why.
Thank you for letting me know, Andrea, on that. If anybody else is having that happen, let me know too, and I will. Same for day. Okay, thank you. Bob, thank you for letting me know about that as well. I will make sure that we get that remedied shortly, probably right after this. Actually, when we have an activity in a breakout, I'll try to make sure we get that remedied. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, it does exist. I'm not messing with you. And yeah, once you get access to it, basically you should get access to all of those so you can check for all the different programs. So yeah, as always with what we do, if something isn't there, give us a holler if it's not working and we'll get it fixed. So I'm going to talk through 5 different resources that I would suggest. There are a ton of resources. I had more and I was like, I should try to streamline to 5. So we're going to really briefly touch on 5 different resources that you can use for career exploration. First one being 1220. The next, there is an assessment. It's called the Career Leader Assessment. Anybody who wants to take it, you can have free access to it. Just please send me an email, put Career Leader in the subject line, and you can get that. What you're looking at right now, this is a quick overview of what you have access to after you take the Career Leader Assessment. You take it online. It takes about 45 minutes. It was designed by some folks for Harvard Business School, so it's very business focused. It's not going to tell you should be a singer or a marine biologist or a sustainable farmer. That's not in the options that come out. Hopefully you do those things more in life, especially after you have a good career in business or doing something else. So different things that you can get access to once you take the Career Leader Assessment. This is the interest factor. It's looking at what are the different business interests that you are a good fit for, and it does some ranking of those. This is a little bit more, I don't think a lot of people find this immediately useful. It's helpful in some of the parts that people do find more useful, but yeah, so their interests. It also then uses interests and the values and the skills, and it matches your results with people who have a lot of experience working in these areas, 7+ years working experience and high levels of satisfaction. So you can see here's examples of the career match. So this person scored high in public relations and communication and human resource management. You can see all these different areas, a lot of, like I said, very business focused things. There are a lot of different, this person did not score high in a lot of finance things, but it has everything from investment banking to investment management, finance in a corporate setting, corporate finance. It has entrepreneurship, there's real estate finance, there's financial planning. So a lot of different finance options. There's a number, you can see here already, there's a number of different marketing options. I will say there's only 1 or 2 data science related options. So those of you in the data science program, this might not be quite as helpful for, but I still think it's, in my mind, the best tool out there for this kind of thing. So yeah, also, once you have these results, you can click through, say you score high on production and operations management, or you scored low on it and you just want to know what the heck is that, you can read through and it gives you a lot of good information on what that is. Okay. So kind of the different interests and motivators and connecting the results with that. So I'm going to run through this just real quickly, just because I apologize. These are old slides that we got from the people who put the assessment together. But I think it's kind of cool to see. This is at the top, you can see some of the different career paths and how people score on those core business interests. Like if you want, this is kind of an inside look into how the assessment works. So for those that are marketing managers, they found that folks who scored highest in enterprise control and influencing through language and ideas tended to have the greatest match with being a marketing manager. So kind of an interesting sort of takeaway there, those interests overlapping with that role. They did the same for management consulting partners. The number one there was influencing through language and ideas, and then a couple of others like theory development and research and coaching and mentoring that also scored highly there. Investment banking, probably no big shock. Quantitative analysis was really high. Enterprise control a little bit less. Compared with someone who is interested in finance in a corporate setting, tends to have far more in quantitative analysis, but the enterprise control is not there. More on the managing people, actually, for that one. So just a quick look at how that assessment works. Like I said, it's available on Career Leader. We cover the cost. So just send me an email, put Career Leader in the subject line, and then you'll have everything you need to take it. Next resource I have is something called the Vault Guides. Out of curiosity, has anybody used the Vault Guides before? Anybody in chat or want to give like thumbs up or anything like that if anybody's used it before? Nice. Okay. I'm seeing at least one person's familiar with it. A couple. Great. So yeah, there's a lot there. Jordan, who's going to be talking with us in just a moment, she mentioned how helpful this was. So there's a lot of good information in the Vault Guides. So there are the guides itself, which, I mean, this is just a handful of them. I mean, you pick a job and there's a guide for a lot of them. I don't think there's a data science guide, at least not yet, but there's one for a slew of finance areas and a number of marketing areas. They also have these tech career paths that they follow. So there is a lot here on data science and some more up and coming fields that are younger that they may not have a full guide for. And they also do all kinds of rankings for different employers. So there's just a ton of different information. You get access to that for free through the Vanderbilt library system. So just a reminder that, yeah, that exists. And let's see. And here is a link for that. Hopefully that one will work as well. All right. Oh, perfect. And Kathleen, thanks so much for putting in my email address for the Career Leader. Okay, so yeah, so there's a lot to take advantage of in the Vault Guides. Please look into those if you're at all interested, if you want a little bit more in-depth information. Yeah. Jordan, if you're here, if you have anything you want to add about the Vault Guides, feel free to hop on. Otherwise, we can talk about that more later.
I can talk about it a little bit in terms of how I used it for exploring data science career paths when I talk towards the end. Sounds
good. Awesome. Thank you. But an example of one other person that's found that helpful. So yeah. So I'm going to hit just on a couple more resources quickly. Number 4 is Designing Your Life. This is a book. It was written by some folks who are faculty at Stanford. I believe at least one of them still is. And they taught a class called Designing Your Life. They have a lot out there. They travel around and do presentations, but they put it in a book form a couple of years ago. And it has a lot of great activities. If I were, I don't know, putting a variety of activities here, some people are like, I don't have time for a book. Some people want a book and really to go in depth. If you want to go in depth, this has a lot of, the book is very like ingrained with design thinking, hence the name. And they give you a ton of very applied activities that you can use. So this one on the right you see is called their Good Time Journal. And basically you kind of do the work of like a qualitative researcher. And at the end of each day, you go through and you kind of mark on this log, what are the different things you're doing and what do you enjoy? What's your engagement level? What's your energy level? Are you hitting a state of flow? This is an example of what that might look like. And then after you have a couple of those, you can kind of look through and start identifying patterns. Definitely something that takes a little bit of time, but if any of you have like an internship or work this summer, I think this could be a super neat way to say like, hey, why is it that I'm loving this work or not loving it? Or what are the parts of it that I am really enjoying and getting down to that? So another good resource out there. So, all right. The last resource that I want to talk about is, this is probably pretty straightforward, but is people. I was just listening to a podcast recently Data Science for All, and they interviewed somebody who works here in the Nashville area in data science. And she kept saying over and over again how helpful it was in her career path to talk with people who work in the areas that you're interested in. It's something that hopefully you all will be starting to do and thinking about. And so it's such a key part. I mean, I would say if I had to pick one out of the 5 resources that we're sharing, I would pick this one hands down, most important for learning about different career paths. Because not only is it a great way to explore career paths, compared to all of the rest of these, this is the one that can help you most with actually landing an internship or a job down the road. Now, I will say, starting out when you're just exploring career options, you don't need to get ahead of yourself. Like, you just want to gather information first. So one of the ways that you can look into this or get more information about this is there's some really cool articles, out there about how I got the job. We're just starting to get these for data science students, but we already have them for MSFs and for MMarks. And if you want to check that out, there is a link that will take you to the archives. There are dozens of these. You can see just snapshots of a couple of them right here for some past MBA students, and Lewis, who's a past MSF student. In addition to, when you click through to these, you'll get the full article. So here's one about an MMark from the class of 2022 who landed at KPMG Advisory, and you get kind of the narrative of her story, you get a picture, and then this is a timeline, and it basically walks through sort of step by step, what was she doing at different points when she applied to KPMG, when she completed their online assessment, when she got the interview, they did an in-person networking event, another round of interviewing, and then she gets the offer. And there's a lot more on this you can see from the timeline, but a lot of great information there. So please take advantage of that. If they're just working on getting some of these up on the data science site or their version of some of these. So I think they have one for alum Teddy Weaver up there. And from what I hear, more will be following. So yeah, so it's another great one to think of. So if I were you, talking about the value of people and people you know, what I would start doing already is I'd start thinking of who you know right now, who works at an employer of interest, who works in an industry that you want to learn more about, who is in a role that you say, wow, in a couple of years, I would love to be in a role like that. Probably good to know that you probably can't make that hop right away, even with a master's degree from Vanderbilt, but there are roles out there you can start planning now to move into. Start with those you already have a connection with. I know sometimes our students who really want to do things like in financial service or consulting are like, hey, I know someone who's a partner at a major firm. I'm going to go up and talk with them first. And I would say, wait, why don't you warm up and talk with a few people who are a little bit closer to where you are and can help you a little bit more with the career exploration piece. And then you can come back to some of those people who are really senior a bit later on when you're working more on getting the role and you are a fine-tuned job searching machine after you've attended several of the sessions we're doing this summer. So yeah, I'd start brainstorming who are family, friends, past coworkers, people that you currently have some relationship with, where you can ask a few dumb questions because you just don't know, and it's okay, and you haven't done all your research, you don't have your resume ready yet, and start having some of those conversations, right? So before we wrap up with the resources part, I have one more poll question I want to ask. So this question is, what's helped you in making career-related decisions in the past? So when you think about deciding what you wanted to major in or study, when you're thinking about internships, when you thought about this program and helped you decide that, and you can pick multiple of these. I know it may not be just one, but I'm curious, what was most helpful for you as you were thinking about which paths you wanted to take? Nice, seeing a good variety of answers. Give this about 3 more seconds. If you would, go ahead and finish. All right, I'm going to share the results. So like I said, a real mix of things. Some folks attending employer events and career fairs, smaller number career assessments, smaller number clubs and professional associations, And then following advice of mentors, advisors, parents, folks that you know really well is the highest. Reading about different career paths looks like that's second highest. And then seeking out those in careers of interest, doing informational interviews. So a little bit similar to the advice, but more people you probably don't know quite as well. And I will say, I mean, that last question was kind of, that last resource was talking about people who you already know and starting to connect eventually with people who you know a little bit about. And it seems like that holds true as being some of the most common ways that people have made career decisions in the past. So that's helpful to see. Awesome. Okay. Thank you for sharing on that. Next up, Jordan, if you're ready to talk a little bit about your career path. And so Jordan is a current student in data science. She just finished her first year in the data science program. She is a little bit unique in that she has quite a bit of work experience. So she can speak to having made a couple of career decisions. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And yeah, and then after that, I've got an activity that we're going to do. And if you stick around after the activity and a brief exercise on that, we'll have a little bit of time to ask some more questions of Jordan too, assuming you have time.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, thanks for taking time. You start your internship, is it on Monday?
Yes.
It's coming up fast.
And
Thank you for taking time, even though you've got your internship coming soon.
Oh, no problem.
Jordan, where do you want to start? Do you want to talk a little bit about some of your past career decisions that you did right after your undergrad, or do you want to talk a little bit more about some of the options that you were kind of thinking through as you came into the data science program?
Yeah, well, I think to get into the second part, I have to talk a little bit about my background. So for context, I was an English major, graduated in 2014, and ended up into public accounting. The trajectory makes sense if I go into detail about it, but long story short, found the job through my school's career fair. So I worked for 7 years in public accounting, both in the tax side, client facing, and then in an internal focused role, and eventually learned about the field of data science and just realized like this area makes sense for me and what I want to do with my career. So all that being said, when I came into the data science program, I had 7 years of work experience under my belt and had a pretty good sense of different industries and what a corporate environment looks like. So when I came into the program, I also knew that I was really interested in, but didn't know a lot about some other career paths, like what an academic career path might look like, or what it might look like to work for a startup company. So at the beginning, I was kind of unsure which path. I didn't have like one sole path that I wanted to take. I wanted to explore different opportunities. And I also knew that I wanted to build up my like technical resume and get more technical skills under my belt, like coding, building up my coding ability, and like statistical knowledge. So coming into it, I was pretty open-minded about what are the different options for me, and in order to explore those opportunities, I mean, some of the first things I did is I met with Brooke and Trinity and really got to know them, and they helped me kind of like concretize like all these different ideas into more of a plan that sometimes I followed really nicely, and other times I kind of less so. And then I also really got to know the professors in my program and use them or ask them questions about like, okay, how would I talk about something in like data science speak, or talk about my past experience in data science speak. I also worked on a DSI research project, which is open to all. Like when you come into the program, they'll say like, hey, we have these projects that all data science students can participate in and work on, and that got me a really good like view on what a data science project workflow looks like. So that's kind of like how I got started, like right off the bat in the program. Brooke, should I like which direction should I like move in next to, or do you think?
I was thinking, I think that's helpful to kind of get a little more sense of like, yeah, what you're thinking going in and then early in the program. And then, yeah, do you mind talking a little bit about how that played out in relation to finding, you know, and deciding what you did this summer or what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, so I think the way things played out is I had started like planting some seeds in different places, like really like getting to know people in the program who could help like point me in different directions towards opportunities. And then for me, it was also getting really comfortable with the technical piece, because just of where I was coming from career wise, I knew that I could make up for I knew that my previous work experience could kind of make up for the lack of time that I spent job searching in the fall. I didn't do too much of like, I didn't do too many applications in the fall, or yeah. And part of that is in data science internships, a lot of these job applications will have you do like a coding test. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to do those yet. So passed on that. I really did more of my, I really like ramped up the applications in the spring. And that also kind of worked for me because I already had a resume that was mostly good to go. I did have to I did have to change a lot of my bullet points to be more technically focused rather than talking about like my business skills and my soft skills. So that was something that I did have to change through the program, or like during the course of the program. And I already knew I could write a good cover letter. So because I knew I had those things pretty like under control, I knew that I could kind of pick those up quickly in the spring. So I'm just pointing that out because people coming into the program may not have, or into the data science program may not have like several years work experience. So that's kind of how I would distinguish my background from other students, and how I kind of used my strengths to my advantage to kind of change the timing. But anyways, so I did a lot of applying in the spring, and it took some time. It took about like a month and a half, 2 months to start hearing back from places. And I was interviewing in May, which it felt like very late to be hearing back, but I think that's kind of how it goes when you like wait, when you hold off on like very seriously applying until spring, like mid-spring. In the end, I had a few opportunities, one through like corporate, one at a startup, and then some possibilities of doing summer work for the DSI or with working with the professor. And I ended up choosing to work with a startup this summer. So I'll be in Providence working as a data science intern. And I'm kind of, yeah, let me know if I'm missing some information or if there's anything I should go back and cover.
No, I think that was great. I'm glad that you're being a little hard on yourself with getting a little bit later. I was like, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that you had, a couple of different opportunities when the time actually came. So that was nice. And I think, I mean, all the programs, things can get really busy with classes. There can be a lot to do. And I think something that worked really well for you is, you'd started the process very early on. So again, I'm grateful that people are here kind of starting to work on this over the summer. I mean, of course, recruiting is important, but when things get going with classes and projects and assignments and exams, sometimes it's hard to keep recruiting going as well. So just a good reminder to please start working on it early. And Jordan, I think, mentioned something that she did that I think a lot of other folks do too, which is as you go through the program, as you learn more about the careers you want to do, you keep shifting, your resume and cover letters to better fit those things. So the more you're learning about these different career paths, the sooner you can make sure that not just your resume and cover letter, but the story, the way you tell your story, the way that you interviewing is really targeted towards those employers. Perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, maybe what we'll do now is shift to our activity. And Jordan, if you don't mind sticking around, because a little bit later we'll have a chance for, if any of you want to ask Jordan some questions, we'll have a chance to do that. But let's move to our activity. Also, this is just a quick slide. I know AI can be so important these days. So it's such a good resource out there for thinking about job search. So these are a couple of I was talking with one of our grad interns who spends a lot of time thinking about using AI in career development. So these are a couple of ideas for AI prompts if you want to try these in ChatGPT that could give you ideas about career exploration. Yeah, I mean, I will say there are pros and cons, just like I would not take a career assessment and say, I'm 100% going to do whatever this career assessment says. I would say the same thing with using ChatGPT. If it kicks back, oh, here's a few career paths, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's got to be it. Like, hopefully that's a starting place for next steps. Okay, so here's the activity we're going to do in our remaining time. It's called a wandering map. If anybody's ever done this before, this activity comes from a book. It was written by someone who headed up led the Vanderbilt Career Center a couple of years ago, named Kate Brooks. And it's sort of a brainstorming mind mapping exercise. So I sent an email to folks who had registered for this and asked you to have a blank sheet of paper. So if you have a blank sheet of paper, please go ahead and get it out along with something to write with, because we're going to be using that for this exercise. In short, I've got a couple of prompts that I'm going to run by you. And I'm going to use that to help you get thinking about your wandering map and what you're going to put down there. So if I were you, if you've got a sheet of paper, I would turn it this way, landscape way. And basically you can start writing on that as we start brainstorming different ideas. Okay. So first thing that we're going to do is try to get you thinking. A lot of this exercise is getting you thinking a little bit about what are some of the things that make you you, what makes you unique. What makes you interesting. So these are some prompts, but if I were you right now, just kind of be listening to some of the things I'm saying. And if you get ideas, you can start jotting them down. You can write down keywords, phrases, you can draw pictures. You don't need to organize things. You can just kind of put them wherever they fall on the page. Once you have an idea, you can put a circle around it just to kind of keep your ideas distinct. And you don't need to censor yourself, just kind of put things down on the page as they come. The next thing I would do is start thinking about some of the prompts. So for example, what are significant things that you have done when you think back about your life? What are significant things that you've done? What are some of your most memorable experiences or favorite memories? What are things that you are most proud of? Have there been specific people that have really had a big influence on you? It could be a professor, a mentor, a teacher, a coach, a parent, a relative, a friend. So all these things that hopefully as I'm talking, if they come to mind and you'd say that they're significant for you and your experience, put them down on that sheet of paper. I'd also think about what are your hobbies? How do you spend your free time? And what jobs and what internships have you had? Especially those that you felt like were really impactful, really meaningful or interesting. And then you can consider even writing down things that are more key events that have happened or key objects, things that are really, really meaningful for that. For some people, it could be certain like objects like books that they've read that are really important, or certain tools that they've used, certain instruments that have been meaningful to them. For some people, it could be more around academics, if there's certain classes that were very impactful, certain projects, presentations, or theories that really resonate with them. For some people, it may be more, there could be some extracurriculars. It could be externships, internships, shadowing, perhaps studying abroad, certain things that they did over the summer, certain clubs, certain volunteer activities or athletics that they did. So yeah, so hopefully that's helping give you a couple of categories you can start putting down on your piece of paper. This is one example of what this could look like. But here's the way that someone did it. They put themselves kind of in the middle, and they started writing some of these different, based on some of these prompts, they started putting some of these things down to capture some of those ideas. And now what we're going to do is we're going to shift and even add a few more things to that map, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start thinking a little bit about some of the lines of commonality. And as we're going on this, if you think of, oh, here's another thing I want to add that's really important or significant, please add that to your map. But now you can take a quick look at some of the things that you already have down on your sheet of paper, and you can start drawing some lines of connection, things that you feel like have some connection here. So you can see here, this person felt like there was a connection between their adolescent psych class and their criminal justice class. Perhaps those were things that they were studying that were really of interest to them, or they felt like there was some overlap between those classes, but they drew a connection. So start using this to make some connections between the items that you've already listed. I'll say we're doing this in sort of a condensed form, so I hope you all are good with continuing to work as I'm kind of talking and putting up some of the prompts for you all. Please, if you want to come back to this, I would strongly encourage you to come back to this. This could be something that you spend a little bit more time on later. So as you think about some of the points of connection, then one of the things you want to think about is what are some of the themes that come to mind? And I would put it this way, you can think about themes that come to mind. You could also think about some of the different skills that come to mind, okay? So some of the ways of kind of organizing some of the things that you already have down. So I'll flip back and forth between these, but hopefully as you're drawing those lines of connection, think about some of these things in terms of what is connecting those different items on your list. And really, this is around those themes, thinking about what are the patterns that exist between the things that you've already listed, and connecting the dots between those different things and seeing like what are the threads. Even though experiences can be pretty different, sometimes there are things that they can have in common. And there can also be things that you learn from different activities. So, so these are a couple of example themes. Certainly there could be others, but it could be things like pursuing adventure, seeking out creativity, promoting harmony, serving others, doing research, learning as much as you can, furthering one's wealth or one's spirituality. And as we come back to skills, this could be everything from skills analyzing different things, could be leading other people, organizing information, doing teaching, doing investigating, communicating with others. Okay. So hopefully that's giving you a couple of other ideas of where you want to go with this. I will say on this, when I have done this before, I know it can be a little bit messy, but here's one of the ones that I did. You can see my different circles. It was helpful for me to start writing some of my themes on the back. That was something that I felt like I could come back to. If it will help, yeah, feel free when we share these slides. You can revisit some of this. And also if you want to, there's a lot of places you can look online that have kind of more of the prompts if you want to spend a little bit more time digging into this. But hopefully this will give you at least some place to start. We'll talk a little bit more about this concept a little bit later as we head into some future sessions likely. So I've got a couple of quick ideas that we're going to share in sort of wrapping up on things. So first thing is this. First thing is we've been talking about a lot of different concepts today and thinking about how you can organize this. I don't know if this will be of help for everybody. This is some of you who are MSFs who are hopefully working through the curriculum. This may look familiar. We talk sometimes about FIG, which stands for function, job function, industry, and geography. And that can be a good way to think about the way you're prioritizing your search. Which of those is most important? For some people, geography doesn't matter. For some people, it's just about doing the right function, the right kind of work, the right role. For other people, it's, hey, I've got to be in, I've got to be in the tech industry. So thinking about that, what's most important for you in that way? That might be a way to kind of have some takeaways from this. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up with a few quiz questions for you. So first quiz question, trying to see what we have learned from today. Where can you find data on where past OWIN and DSI students have secured roles, including job titles and work authorization? And I'm going to add in this is after we've double checked and make everything works right. Is this through Handshake, 1220, program employment reports, or trick question that information is not shared? If you would, in the chat box. Oh, Lily's already mentioned 1220. Any other thoughts on that? Someone is liking her response. Any other guesses on that one? Lily, you had a lot of applause and you are absolutely correct. You got it. It's 1220. You can find, assuming once we get everything fixed and making sure you all have access, the program employment reports have bits and pieces of that information. It does not have everything. So that's kind of your next bet, best bet in the meantime. Okay. This is a quiz question, but this is more of a next step for you all. I'd love to hear, we talked about a lot of different tools you could use today for doing career exploration. What's a tool, and it could be one we've talked about, or if there's another one that we didn't even talk about that you think is really cool, if you would drop it in the chat box, what tools did you think were really cool? I'm going to share one more tool that I think is really cool that we didn't even get talking about, but I think is worth calling out. LinkedIn, Dan, yes. Natalie, career leader, that's something awesome. Glad if you're interested in that. Dan, I'm curious, you mentioned LinkedIn. If there's a certain part, certainly you can do a lot on LinkedIn, but there's a certain part of LinkedIn that you find that really helpful. I'd be interested in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it really helps. For example, I'm interested in airline industry. I've always been, and I'm interested in consumer insights. So a lot of times I'll just go on there and like try to find people that are in those career fields in that industry. And then you just connect to them, like just cold DM on LinkedIn and be like, hey, like, we'd love to pick your brain about X, Y, and Z. And usually some people won't respond, but most people will. And they'll give you like 30 minutes of your day. So that's something that helps me a lot. So
that's awesome. Dan, thank you for sharing that example. Yeah, great way to do that informational interviewing and have a connection with someone. Oh, good to see more. Okay. FIG is mentioned. Vault Guides got a lot of call outs. Jordan, I'm so glad that you mentioned those. Career leader. Oh, Ariana calls out Chat GPT. Ariana or anybody else, if you have any other prompts that you think are especially helpful, I'm hoping each of our sessions, we're going to provide some AI prompts that are relevant for the different sessions we address. So if you have any other great prompts that you would use, especially around career exploration, please feel free to share those in the chat box or other ways. Amelia found the FIG chart helpful. I'll share one more resource. This is a cool resource through LinkedIn. This is something where basically you can look at different skills and see kind of the correlation between different skills and different job titles. It's kind of a cool information using the massive amount of data that they get around different job descriptions in those areas. Natalie, what about fears related to AI and the impact on your potential occupational field of interest? Yeah, gosh, that is a great question of yeah, with different things that AI is doing, how that can impact some of the different roles that people are pursuing. Gosh, I will say, I mean, I have a couple of quick thoughts on that, which is, I will say that it seems like if we're doing work that relates to both using key tools, but also relating that for other people, kind of being an intermediary between dense information, but also between people, and translating that for other people. I would personally be shocked if those kinds of roles goes away, because even though ChatGPT can do some awesome things, thinking of how to implement. But yeah, studying to create content that can be written by ChatGPT now, and absolutely a good example of something to be thinking about. Oh, Jordan, thank you for that's another great prompt. Yeah, thinking about resume ideas and how you can be working on resume. Yes. Natalie, thank you. Yep. Calling out, yes, as an MMark student, I think especially like thinking about what kinds of roles in marketing can be impacted by AI. That's a really good point. And I'd be curious if we're going to wrap. I know we're running a little bit past 10 o'clock. If anyone wants to stick around and talk briefly about that, or has questions about that, gosh, that's certainly a relevant thing to be thinking about. Okay, last quiz question I have for you all. When is the next summer CMC summer prep session? A, is there another one? B, it's tomorrow. C, it's next Thursday, which is not 6/1, that's 6/8 at the same time. Or D, this is the last one. Oh, I'm already seeing a June 8th call out. Vaibhav, you are correct. It is next Thursday, which is the 8th. And here is the list of sessions that are coming up. So we've got a lot of good content that we're going to be doing. We're going to have different folks on our team kind of sharing and presenting at each of these different sessions. So encourage you to go ahead and put Thursdays at 9 a.m. Central Daylight Savings Time on your calendar. And I will say, if you can invest just this little bit of time over the summer, I think it will give you such a jump start. Before you even get on campus, you'll be in such good shape for pursuing different things on your for your career. We're really kind of giving, like, this is sort of, we're trying to cover almost everything that we cover all over the summer, so that by the time you're on campus, you'll really be in strong shape. So yeah, so please take advantage of those. All right, well, that is all that we have for today. But I will say, if you want to stick around because you have a couple of questions, please feel free to do that. And then also, I think we're going to set up a room if anybody wants to, a breakout room, if anybody wants to spend some time talking with Jordan. Are you still okay for the next like 10 minutes or so?
Yeah, I can do 10 minutes.